Happy New Year. 2024 is behind us and 2025 is ahead of us. So let's do a look back at what happened in 2024 and then based on that, make some predictions and look at an outlook for what's going to happen in the greater Jacksonville real estate market in 2025. Now, that said, I'm going to be working from the assumption that you in the last 6 months have heard or seen predictions and talking heads making predictions that the Florida real estate market is going to crash in 2025. And so we're going to take a look at why that may or may not be the case. Hang on till the end to see what we're thinking is going to happen in 2025. So first, let's start with the national real estate value outlook or outcome from 2024. And this is the Case-Shiller Price Index. And you can see it's basically up and to the right. Even though we saw a hiccup or two in both 2023 and 2024, we're still looking at a median price point that is at its highest level ever relative to this index. So that's the good news. If you've owned real estate for some time, it's probably worth more than you paid for it. Unless you bought like in the last, few months, then, it's not there yet, but give it some time. You'll be okay. And when it comes to trying to predict a market crash or market real estate crash, here's the thing. We're still in a position, and this is a national statistic, but my bet is the average here would apply to Florida, and there probably would be a higher percentage of homes in Florida without a mortgage than is the case at the national level. And so in order for a market crash to happen, you need a lot of inventory. That was what we saw back in 2007, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, was that we just had more inventory than there were people buying them. More houses for sale than purchasers of those houses. And when that happens, prices come down. So we're still at a point nationally, if I scroll down here, you can kind of see where the numbers are. And it's this percentage of homes without a mortgage, where nearly 40% of people in 2022 owned their home free and clear. And I'll link to this article, but these numbers are a little bit hard to find where they're both recent and accurate. That's why this data is a couple years old. But in doing some Googling, it looks like that number has even gotten a little higher here as we finish out 2024. So to set the stage, that's the good news. We're in a position where values are, have gone up, are going up, and are better than they were in recent history. 1. 2, also, we're in a market where a lot of people own their home free and clear. And so there's no pressure to sell or pressure to sell for less than you want to when you don't owe the bank anything, right? So that's the good news, just to set the stage. And then here's sort of the not as much fun news is we are in an environment in Northeast Florida. And by that, I mean Duval, Clay, St. Johns, and Nassau counties is what the data that we'll look at here shortly includes, where we just have a lot more inventory. As a matter of fact, we have roughly 65% more available listings today than we did this time 12 months ago. So that's a point to consider. And that wouldn't be a big deal if we were selling 65% more houses every month or every week, right? These are actually weekly numbers that we're looking at. Unfortunately, that's not the case, though. We're selling about 40% fewer houses this past week as opposed to, or in comparison to the same week from 12 months ago. So that creates a bit of a crunch. A lot of houses for sale, not as many people buying them. And you may be thinking, Jeff, this doesn't look great. This looks like a real estate market crash. But hold on for just a second. So if you saw in the previous graph, while the number of active listings was going up, it had stabilized in about the last 6 weeks, which to me indicates we've sort of hit a ceiling for how many houses are going to come on the market. Because here we are in January, and seasonally, things start to pick up in Northeast Florida around February. And so you can see this days on market number has gone up as well in comparison to last year, but it came down last week. And my bet is it's going to come down the next week. and the week after that, all the way through probably the middle of the summer, we'll see this general trend where days on market is coming down, the number of active listings available is coming down, and the number of pending sales is going up. Because what did we have end of last year? We had an election. In every election year, because I've been through 4 or 5 election cycles, I don't even remember now, in my real estate career, but every election year, people put a pause on their moves, whether selling or buying. They just hold their ground until the election's done, and then they start back up. And just anecdotally, I've seen this with our listing inventory in our office and people that I'm working with. Those who have been just, silent and not active for months and months and months are ready to do something in 2025. So as we look at these days on market here, yes, it's high, but my bet is that it's going to come down. And the last little weekly trend number that we'll look at is this percent of distressed units selling in our market. And you can see that, it goes up and down a little bit, but even at its high point, that was 1.5%, which compared to like 2010, 11, 12, 40% of our sales in our market were distressed. And remember, now we're looking back at 40% of homes roughly are owned without a mortgage. So it's likely that we won't see this distressed sales number go up substantially in 2025 because we're just not in a place. I think the worst is over, and we're not in a place where they're going to be all of these motivated sellers who have mortgages that are not affordable and don't have any equity. Because remember, we're coming out of 2021, 22, when interest rates were below 4% for most of those 2 years. And so if you bought or refinanced then, you've got an interest rate that's half of what current interest rates look like. So all of that said, even though we've got a little bit more inventory than we want, you don't have very motivated sellers in most cases. And the last sort of market statistic update that we'll look at here. So again, this is for Northeast Florida, all property types. We can see where prices year over year were basically flat, down 0.2%. If you were to single out single family homes, that wouldn't be the case. Prices are up like 2 to 3% off the cuff when we're looking only at single family homes. Really, condos are the one that's pulling that down just a touch. And then closed sales was up 12.3%, even though nationally it's about flat. Active inventory, while it's up significantly, is starting to trend down a little bit here at the end, you can see. And the same for new pending sales, even though it's off from what it was this time a year ago. My anticipation is that we'll see that pick back up pretty quickly in 2025. And then last but not least, for the good news, I guess, is we are seeing wage growth in Florida. For the most part, these counties, or the large majority of counties, were above 5% in wage growth in a week over the previous year's week comparison, which I think will slowly, as we see mortgage interest rates sort of stabilize, and I can look at that quickly. We're in a position now where for 2.5 years, mortgage interest rates have hovered between 6 and 7%, give or take. And, we're hoping and anticipating that they come down a little bit this year, and they probably will come down a little bit. We're not going to see anything, I don't have a crystal ball, but we're not going to see anything in the low 5s. I can't imagine. I think our best case scenario would be high 5s, more likely scenario right around 6, probably low 6s in the somewhat near future. But that said, if we've got wages that are continuing to go up at 5% a year and real estate values that are flat to slightly improving, maybe 0 to 3% per year, well, homes are becoming more affordable, and therefore we'll see more activity as that trend continues. So you get some wage growth, you get real estate prices that are relatively flat, you get mortgage interest rates that are relatively flat to slightly declining, and then a population surplus that, even though it's slowed down in Florida, continues to take place, certainly in Florida as a whole, but in Northeast Florida specifically. That all combines for a still healthy real estate market in 2025 is my bet. If you've got any questions on that, maybe you want to know what it means for the value of your house specifically, because each market, whether it's a condo or a single family detached home or a multifamily property, maybe it's out at the beach, maybe it's on the west side, all of these things perform a little bit differently when you get down to the nitty gritty. So if you have questions about that, feel free to reach out. You can text or call 904-405-1995, or just shoot me an email, jeff@pursuitrealestate.com. Take care, and here's to a happy and prosperous 2025.